What are you doing?
I don't know how much booze is in this.
Oh,
It's nothing.
you cannot do that.
That's tepid. That needs ice.
Hey, what's going on down there?
Lord?
That's you, God?
No, it's me, Dwight.
Oh, hey. What's going on, Dwight? Hey,
not too much.
Dwight
Good to see you
McCormick,
guys.
everybody.
Join us.
Come
that needs
on.
All right.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right.
Good,
Glad
good.
to be here.
Yeah, good.
Well.
We are here at this beautiful, beautiful church. This is, I'm sorry. The opening got me. I'm Keith Irvin.
I'm Brock Shank.
I'm Dwight McCormick.
And that's Dwight McCormick. This is hashtag Comedy Ain't Easy. And we are here in Springfield, Ohio.
And it's Northminster Presbyterian Church.
Northminster Presbyterian Church. You're saying, what are you doing in a church, comedian? Well, my friend, Mr. Dwight, is a pastor and a comedian. Yes, he is. How you doing, Dwight?
I've had a good day today.
Good.
Any day above ground counted as a win.
So this is Thursday. What does a pastor do on Thursday?
Thursday, I write my sermon. I
Okay.
work from the mornings. I work from home, and I'll go to a coffee shop too. Sometimes that's the state law. Actually, is a pastor has to write
Goes to a coffee
at
shop?
the coffee shop. So write the sermon, and so yeah, I've been working on that today, trying to get it together around the fruits of the Holy Spirit. Today is self-control. So I was having cheesecake and a couple of beers, and we
So
just
you
had
need
to sit them
listen-
there, sat them on the table, and had to just look at them, and I was like, all right, I'm ready.
Oh, that's how you do
Yeah,
it. Okay.
so-
But you can't partake.
Right, exactly. Just stop.
Back in the day, they just went to the well
Right.
when there was no coffee shop.
Right,
I always
right.
wondered what a pastor did like throughout the week, because I was raised in church too. So you have Wednesday night church here?
Well, really, we only work 1 hour a week, so.
That's what everybody thinks, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
easiest
Right,
job
just
in the
that-
world.
My buddy said, what do you do with the rest of your time? I'm like, sports gambling. $100 on the team that the Lord wants to win.
Yeah.
That's the Saints, of course.
Oh, that's great.
The athletes always thank God. They do.
Yeah.
But the losers, they don't blame God.
They don't.
Who knows?
I don't know why that is.
It's in his hands.
Jesus doesn't really care about football. Well, if he did play football, he'd be a return man. So I think
That's awesome.
See, this would be a fun church to go to.
I think so.
Now, does your congregation like jokes? I mean, do you joke around?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely on Sunday I'm preaching and lifting up Jesus Christ. That's why we're here. We love God
Right.
and believe in Jesus as Lord. And so I don't want to make it the Dwight show on Sunday.
No, right.
Oh, okay. Like
You
I
just-
would probably do.
Well, definitely early on that was an issue. I have a huge ego, so that's not a good thing as a pastor. I mean, as a
Right.
pastor, we're supposed to be like Jesus. As a comic, we got to have swagger.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
right.
nobody, I mean, not in
gotta
scripture.
tone it down.
It wasn't in scripture anywhere. It was like Jesus fed the 5,000 like a boss. You get a fish. You get a fish. You get a loaf. You get a loaf. Everybody gets a loaf.
Yeah, that is a good story. That is a good parable, too. I wish he was at my house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I need
cut the Kroger bill in half.
buy
That's
about
great.
$15 worth of groceries, and you're just good to go.
Just kind of look at Jesus.
You want to step in here? I kind of drove.
Yeah.
God provides. You buy.
God provides, that's for sure. But yeah, what would it be like though to live with? That would be. I'd kind of feel like pressure all the time. But
Yeah. Oh well, you would never behave well enough, but then you would
Right,
expect things of him. You'd be like, look, I'm not a magician.
Right,
This
right,
isn't like a crazy puppet show.
Right,
That was
exactly.
one time to prove a point. I'm not here
Right,
to
that's
supplement
not
your
a-
grocery bill,
It's
Jack.
not my set.
Got some water here, Jesus.
Yeah.
So how long have you been here, and how'd you get started in the whole Did you get your calling?
I got
or-
called here to serve in 2007, so I've been here about 10 years as of May of 2017.
Called by God or a phone call?
Well, we think of both. We think that God works through people, and so we went through an interview process over the phone first, and we liked each other then. This was before Skype, can you imagine?
Oh, wow,
So it was
yeah,
like we
yeah,
actually,
actually-
you talked on an actual phone? What was
Yeah,
that like?
exactly. You probably had to dial it
What
and
were the
everything.
dinosaurs
That's
like?
crazy talk.
But no, we talked on the phone, and you kind of feel like that God works through the folks who are talking to you to tell you whether or not you're supposed to come. And when we got here, or when we were talking, I had to tell them right up front, hey, I do comedy. I perform on the side here, and I want to let you know up front so we don't go any further unless that's all right, because the church where I was before, they weren't.
Oh, they wasn't feeling it?
They weren't cool with it. A handful enjoyed it, but a handful didn't, and they kind of came in and called me on the carpet and were like, hey, we know you've been over here in the comedy club. What's that about? We don't think you ought to be in bars and stuff. So I was like, oh, okay. So comedy feels like a calling as well, not as primary, but I think I hope to spread some good and some laughs.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah, right.
do some ministry. It's fun and
It's a hobby. I mean, if you're not, I guess, doing anything wrong, there's no reason to have
right. Yeah,
not to have a hobby.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us about your church.
Well, so you got about 150 folks on the rolls. We worship right around 80 to 100 on a Sunday, but average about 80. It's a mostly older congregation, like a lot of mainline denominations. We have we've tried, getting more people in. Had a promotion a couple weeks ago. It was a little misguided, twerking for Jesus. And, we did this Pimp My Pew. That was
Pimp
one of
My
my
Pew?
favorites. We customized the pews.
Nice. You put some 20s on them?
Yeah, put some
Nice.
in there. Well, those faith-based video game systems in the back, the Sony PlayStation 4, and my favorite. We put a pledge, the credit card machine in the back there, so you can slide it right through. But I put the Amount OK button at the pulpit. So Amount OK? No. Amount OK? No.
Right.
Amount OK?
Keep
Oh
it coming.
yeah.
Keep it
Right,
coming.
yeah.
That went okay till they started hitting the cash back button. So, but yeah. But no, the congregation is very open-minded, very progressive. Well, they're all over the spectrum, really. There's folks who are very right-wing and very traditional, and our worship's very traditional. And there are folks who are very progressive. Might call them left-wing and more hippie.
Right.
So I kind of more left. One of the congregation members, he's an NRA member. He's taken me and my wife out shooting guns, and he asked me one day, he said, Dwight, how do you keep from falling over up in the pulpit? I said, what do you mean? He says, well, you lean so far to the left, I'm just always thinking you're going to fall over. And
that's just like a comedy club, isn't it?
Yeah,
You've got a mix of everybody,
right.
and
Yeah,
not everyone's going to always be happy with what you're saying.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's true.
But you're kind of reading from the ultimate script, so
Right.
I don't know what you could argue with there, I guess,
Right.
unless it's the way you interpret
Well,
it.
that's it. When there was a woman that heard that story from the congregation, she said, well, you just take the people who lean to the right and the people who lean to the left, and you all lean on each other.
There you go.
So I kind of like that idea that the church is made up of people. We need to lean on each other and lean on God, and it works out.
I think the world is full of people that are not the same on purpose. I mean,
Well,
that's
right.
got to be God's design.
Well, yeah.
Not everybody can
Well,
dig
you can't
ditches,
be.
and not
It
everybody
wouldn't-
can
it
be a
wouldn't
brain
work.
surgeon.
That's
You
right.
need a little bit of everybody.
That's
Right.
right.
That's
That's
why
right.
they call it a
Variety.
melting pot of
Right.
just
All of us are God's
Good.
children, and some of us are, a little more in need of help like me than others. But I think all of us, we need each other, and definitely
I know I need help.
No, I'm good. My mom said I am
Oh,
perfect
okay.
in
Oh,
every
your
way.
mom did? Yeah, mom.
Yeah, perfect in every way. I'll pray for you guys, but
My mom said I was good. She said I was good to go.
You're good to go.
She kicked me out at 18.
Right.
So,
Dwight, I remember doing a Christmas show with you where I kind of ruined it. I was new to comedy. I didn't get the point of doing a kids Christmas show. There were no kids there, but
Right.
we did a kids
What was
Christmas
it?
show, and it was at Wiley's,
Right.
where everyone brings gifts, and
Yeah.
it's just a kind of a
Make
nicer,
Make a child smile show.
Yeah.
make a child smile show, a little
I
more
was on
toned
that.
down, and I went full bore, really bad, dark, mean humor, and they said I ruined the Christmas show, and I
They
really
said you ruined it?
yeah, I never got invited. A lot
Who-
of people said I ruined it.
oh, wow.
But you sang a song.
Yeah.
Do you remember the song?
I remember doing Atheist Christmas carols.
Atheist
yeah.
Christmas carols.
I
Can we
remember
get you to
those, yeah.
sing?
I
the
don't, I don't think that's a very appropriate. I quit doing that bit because I got too much flack for it.
Oh,
because,
really?
Well, because it's saying it from the perspective of an atheist, and then I'm a preacher and I'm saying atheist things, so it just kind of.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
But it's a funny
I thought
bit.
everyone could smell the sarcasm on
Right,
that one.
right. You
So,
would think.
That means I can use it?
Right, yeah.
I need all the help I can get.
I
it's funny,
just took the traditional tunes.
Like Silent Night.
Yeah, the Silent Night one was the rough one, but let's see.
That's why I remember it.
Right. Yeah, I can't.
I won't put you on the
No
spot.
pressure.
Right.
But Dwight's a funny comic, and he uses his day job, which is pastor, in his comedy, and it's very entertaining. So if you friend Dwight on Facebook or you follow him,
and we have a clip reel show later on after the show.
you'll want to see him.
It's at Preacher Comic on
Right.
Twitter and on the Instagram and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, he's all over the place. Hey, how did the pastor get into comedy?
It was kind of a survival tool whenever I was at my former church because I had quit having much joy. Had been there too long, and it was not a good match. Sometimes you'll be the congregation and the pastor. It's just like a marriage. You've got to have a good compatibility enough for both of you to keep working and wanting to do what you're doing. And I had been there a little too long, and just was looking for something in a bookstore to make me laugh in the comedy section. Actually, I know I get flack from other comics for this, but I found the Comedy Bible by Judy.
I've been wanting to get
what's
that.
her name? Judy.
I don't remember. I know a lot of people have read it.
But people give people crap who read it. So anyway, but it said Comedy Bible. I'm like, well, I'm a preacher. I'll look at the Comedy Bible. Judy Carter. But anyway, it had a little step by step, and it's not the way to do comedy, but it's a way. But the thing that you put a date in there by which you'll do an open mic. So I think it was 2000. What was it? 2006 maybe, and I put it in there, put in the date, and it was a Huntington Funny Bone, Huntington, West Virginia, where I went to Marshall University.
Why there?
Well,
you were there?
that's where I was serving.
Okay.
I was right there in Huntington, and so I signed up, and you had to put in. You paid to play. It was a $10 entry fee for the open mic, and if you won, you got your money back. You got $100 or something, and I happened to win that night, and it was the only competition.
First night?
Well, yeah, but it was the only competition I ever entered that I won. So,
I know.
But it was fun, and I brought like 25 or 30 people.
Oh
and there were
yeah,
about
so
40
you were
in the audience.
That's good. So you had the room
that helped,
on your side. That helped you win.
It was to kind of help balance out the stress I was going through. I wasn't, I don't think God wanted me there anymore, and I was trying to make it work, and this was God's way of saying, no, have a little bit of fun, enjoy yourself, laugh, and and I might be calling you somewhere else.
Right.
So,
Okay. And then when you got here?
Yeah, that's when I got in the interview process here, and I told them early on, look, I'm doing this. Is this okay with you all? And they're like, yeah, we think that's an asset. And I was like, all right.
That's like being in the military. When the boss says jump, you're going over here now.
Right. Well, wherever God calls us, that's the thing. That's
stressful.
Because
you got a mortgage. I mean, you got bills just like anybody else.
Right.
It's not all.
Well, that's why you got to have
unicorns and rainbows.
No.
It's like, hey, we're moving. Everybody, say goodbye to your school. We're going over here. And you got to hope these people like you.
That's
you get along.
That's it. Well,
we
feel
all
like
over again.
That's kind of how it felt. God made this. This was a good match, and it's continued to be. So we're grateful.
That's great.
That is very cool. So do you think being a pastor helped you with comedy? Because that is probably the biggest fear of anybody who does comedy for the first time. If you guys have tried it out there, if you got first timers watching, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went on stage, and I'm not a nervous person, I can talk to anybody.
Right.
But then everyone's staring at me, and it's not a two-sided conversation.
Right.
They're waiting for me to say something, and it better be funny.
Right.
My mouth dried up, and I couldn't swallow, and I thought, I'm gonna die. I had to sip some water. It was horrible.
Well, it's definitely an asset.
It's still brutal for me. I get some shows.
Depends on the show, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes
it really
you'll be like
does.
feeling
People aren't
good
giving you
and-
feedback. If people are just giving you the
give you the stink eye.
Yeah. They don't like it.
But being a pastor was definitely a plus. Being able to be in front of folks speaking, and I was already called to do that, and that is my calling, my daily calling. So that definitely translates.
So were you sketched out the first time then you got up to be a pastor? Like first sermon you ever gave, let's say?
Really I wasn't, because my mom actually got me to speaking in church when I was like in 5th grade or something.
Oh, yeah?
And I was scared to death then, but she'd give me these little missionary stories to memorize, and I'd be standing up on the little chancel there, I was the only one that memorized them because she made me memorize it.
Right.
So I would get up there and I'd
Yeah.
be delivering this 3-minute, I'd do my 3 minutes from the front church
3
steps.
minutes in fifth grade? That's a lot.
In front of the church. And so it's Wednesday night in the First Baptist Church of Bluefield, and I'm standing there on the stairs, and I'm like, and I'm freaking out and looking at it. I'm like, did I get it? Did I get it? Did I get it? And so, but that's the way my mom, was proud of me. And so I was like, well, if this makes her happy, I'll do it. Somebody asked me once, how do you get your kid? How do you help him become a comic? And I'm like, withhold affection. So that's how it was. My mom's love, unfortunately, was not always unconditional. It was if you do well, you do well, then you get praise. And I'm sure my insecurity was in there too that distorted all that. But that's how I worked through the jitters. Was starting in 5th grade. I started speaking in front of people from that time.
Oh, okay. So you're.
Would that make us the second greatest generation then?
Well,
Because now everybody loves their kids
Right.
unconditionally.
Oh my God!
Kids
they're
are
like
the worst.
Too much.
Kids
Right.
are the worst.
Oh,
Kids praise.
Lord.
They
They're
throw it and
horrendous.
it's terrible. And you're, oh, that's such
my
a good job.
goodness.
Yeah. Everyone is praised
Everybody
for such
gets a
mediocre
trophy.
performances. I think
They're like, oh, Billy just ran into the pole.
Billy gets the same ice cream cone I do.
Yeah.
I got to second base on a burner
He struck
in,
out.
in between first and second. I had to dive, and I don't get extra dip cone.
Right.
No, that doesn't work for
no,
me.
yeah,
When I was in T-ball,
Right,
if you lost, you did not get
Right.
a
Yeah,
buck to
we
spend
didn't
at the,
go out. Yeah,
the
you
thing.
didn't go out to eat. You went
And we'd
home
make fun of the losers. We'd hold our pass. Loser.
Kind of remind me of the Bad News Bears. Remember
Right.
that?
I remember that movie. I remember that.
The original,
But
not
that was
the,
based
Yeah,
on, yeah.
1978, wasn't
Yeah.
it? 70 something.
It was in this early 70s.
There's got to be a
yeah.
little performance for. God expects performance from us.
I believe that God expects us to do our best, and even when we do our best, we still end up falling short, and that's why we need grace.
Well, yeah, we're all pathetic compared to
Well, compared
the
to
goal,
perfection,
compared to
right.
God. So you do your best, it's pathetic. But if He knows that's your best,
Right,
and
right.
if we all did our honest best,
Right, but I think even if we fall way short, God's grace makes up. That's what forgiveness is it's meaning we don't, or it's starting out saying we already are enough because we're created in God's image. And then God gives us that grace. And then I believe when we recognize that grace, then we live a life to show thanksgiving for that. And out of our gratitude, when we're trying to show our gratitude for being loved unconditionally, because that is God's love, not parents or ours, but then we approach closer to what God expects.
kind
I
of
think.
fills the void.
Well, grace is all. Anne Lamott always says, "Grace bats last." So it's always cleaning up for us.
Oh,
It's
okay,
always,
yeah.
Every
I
time
like that.
we fall short, grace makes up for it, and that's why
That feels good.
It's amazing.
Feels like you got a backstop.
Yeah.
It's like a bumper bowl when
Right.
they put the inflatable bumper in. Like it might not be pretty, but I'm going to get down to the
That's right.
end.
It's going to hit the pins.
Yeah, it might not be awesome, but it's going to get there. I like
can't.
that.
I think it's Anthony Griffin. Maybe was the comic. I'm not sure, but he was
It's
talking.
Andy Griffin.
Yeah, exactly.
Andy Griffin?
No, but I think it's Anthony. But he's
Oh.
he talked about it wasn't Anthony. Anthony told me who it was. I can't remember the guy's name. But his joke is, and I say this is the way God's love is. It's like a grandmotherly love, not a motherly love. Like the child sets the fire and says, and the mom's like, "Oh my God, you set the fire!" And then the grandma's like, "Leave that baby alone. That's a beautiful fire, baby."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's how God's
Yeah.
love is like the grandma, just really.
Kind of like we
everything
love our
do.
dogs.
Right.
Like, man, you're stupid,
Unconditionally.
but you sure are
Right.
cute.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
sure are
Not
cute.
better. Just love you're
Yeah.
so stupid, but I love you. Yeah, that's,
Yeah, 'cause
that's
my dog
awesome.
is useless and stupid,
Right,
but I
right,
love him.
right.
You wouldn't love him,
Right,
and you wouldn't
right,
love
right,
him,
right.
but I love him.
right.
That's
good.
awesome.
That's great. So you have you been doing any shows? Or you?
Not a ton. I've been doing about once a month is what I aim for, and hopefully I hit that. I get a Monday night. I've been doing these Monday shows at Columbus Funny Bone. It's called Extreme Gospel Comedy Night.
Oh,
and
nice.
This coming Monday, I'm taping a DVD actually, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh,
that's awesome.
It's a lot of. I'm playing a lot of mostly black rooms because a lot of folks. It's a stereotype, but a lot of black folks go to church, and so.
Yeah.
A preacher doing comedy is that's a good.
A preacher doing comedy,
Right,
and his
it's a
name is
good-
Dwight.
Right, exactly. So, but that, I've had great experience with, it's Nicole Carter, Nicole Lady Extreme is what she calls herself, but she promotes shows, promotes disability awareness, just wonderful person. But
Nice.
that feels like where God has led me into that, the market with African American folks. And I tell you what, it's been a lot of fun, and I get work in that in a lot of churches, and that seems to be more where I'm supposed to be.
That's great, because
know,
you did a show with Carpenter and Silky Mike at a church on the west side of Dayton, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
That looked
over,
like that was a...
You're talking about Andre and Silky. Oh yeah, Mike
Silky,
Jackson.
Yeah.
Mike Jackson.
Yeah, he called him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Silky Mike.
Silky Mike. Yeah.
He
They
knows
call
by
him
first and last name.
Right.
He doesn't know
With Silky Mike, yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, that's what that's.
No, I got nicknames too for everybody. I don't know
Paul,
anybody's
Paul
last name.
Giles. Paul Giles.
And I think
church.
Andre was on that one too.
Yeah, Andre. That's what I was saying.
I like him. He's
Andre Clark. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Andre, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time. We had a good time. But
You did Liberty Funny Bone too with Jeff Jenny, didn't you?
I did do a Christian show at the Liberty Funny Bone. I have not had success down there. I haven't got my foot in the door yet, but I'm grateful I get opportunities. And being clean and relatively easy to work with, I think has opened some doors that maybe my talent hasn't necessarily
caught up yet.
Right, yeah. So I mean, I'm funny. I'm not delusional that hey, he's the most funny in the world, But I've got talent, but I think definitely being clean makes the path easier in terms of maybe hosting and doing things like that.
How do you write your? Because I mean, I couldn't even imagine. I would try to write clean, but something would always, and it's not really like it's, Kevin Hart and Eddie Murphy, dirty, per se. So I always get confused on the clean to what level. I mean, where that.
Well, I just think, what would the congregation say if they heard this joke? And then that helps me.
Oh, okay.
That'd be good guidance.
Would I tell this in front of the congregation from the pulpit? And if it's a definite no, then I just throw it out. If it's a maybe, then I run it by Sarah, my wife, and she's a good censor, but I've pushed the envelope some, and I'll test it in front of an audience. I don't curse, and on a show I struggle with that personally, and unfortunately in everyday life. Don't curse at home, kids. But anyway, I think I just use that measure. Would I say this in front of a congregation? And then Sarah, and then I test it in front of an audience. And if you lose the audience, then you're like, well, can I get them back? And if it's too far, then sometimes you can't.
Right.
So, but yeah, and I think truthfully, the Holy Spirit will kind of be like, you get an impression.
So
You'll feel the stress before you have to use your wife as a sounding board.
Yeah,
right.
real,
you just mentioned your kids. Give a shout out to your wife and kids. And
all right.
What's their names? And
how's it going? Good to see you, Sarah. And I got two little daughters, Abinadab and Nebuchadnezzar. They are beautiful.
Biblical names.
Little Nebby. That's what we call her. It's like a biblical snack cake.
I use my wife as a sounding board sometimes to see, because I think comics are so screwed up.
I think
they're like, oh, that's great.
Right.
And,
we'll see
we're having a meeting together with just comics, and we're like, oh, that's genius. And then we tell an audience, and they go, they're horrified. They're like, why would you ever say that in public? Why would you ever even think that? What's wrong with you?
I've had some instances where I've been with I haven't been hanging out with comics enough, to be honest. It feeds me to do that, and I need to, and I miss you guys, and I miss being in the scene as much. I quit drinking is why I haven't been around as much.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, there's always beer and liquor.
Comedy clubs pay you in beer. Here, come to a show, drink all you want.
Drink.
But so I'm hanging out in comics, and then I go hang out with some preachers, and I was acting as though I was hanging out with comics and said something in front of him. The guy was like, everybody, it was like the record scratched and the whole room just turned, and I was like, oh yeah, you guys aren't comics. You don't get that.
I call them real people.
Real people.
Like,
you can't.
I walked into the green room one time at Wiley's, and I started to say, oh, I just thought of this. And I turned and I saw somebody cut the corner of my eye, and I saw a gal sitting there. I'm like, is she a comic or a real person? Like, she's a comic. I'm like, okay. And then I just continued with it, because it doesn't have to be pastors that you're saying it to. Just any normal person that doesn't do comedy.
Yeah, the view is, we have a
That's why it shocks them into thinking, wow, that's really funny, or you should never even think that. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Right. Or just look at you like I don't get it.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
It is. It's terrible.
At work, I'm always coming up with, different things, and then they'll just look at me and.
If the people at work don't get it, the audience won't get it. You're like,
I don't get it. It just bust the balloon right out of in my head. I'm rolling on the floor laughing at this. I can't wait to tell somebody, and I tell them, they look.
Right,
It's comedy
right.
for comics. That's what it
get
is.
it.
Right.
It's like if there's a room full of comics, I'll do a certain set of jokes that I know they'll
There
appreciate
you
the
go.
writing skill because
There
I've
you
got
go.
these jokes. They're my baby.
Oh, yeah.
And they're beautiful to
Right,
me. Oh,
right.
they're beautiful.
Right.
But they're just an ugly baby to other people. They're like, why would you show us that? That's
right.
awful. Man.
Right.
That's the truth. That's the
But to
truth.
another comic, you're like, that's
Oh yeah, they're like,
genius.
that's a good bit, man. And then they'll tag it. They won't.
then they'll
Not
throw
only
it
are
to
you
the
sick,
side.
but
That's right.
I'll go over the top
Right,
and get
that's
even
right.
sicker, and
That's
I'll
right.
tag your joke
That's
for you.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
That's
beautiful.
the thing with shoot, just went right out of my head. All right, you can edit that out, right?
Yeah.
No, don't feel bad.
No,
When you put a camera right there.
No,
that's why
but I was
people on
gonna
game
say,
shows go blank. You put a camera there, and they just.
because he is really funny, and he gave us a clip, and real quick, we're gonna take a look at his clip, and then we will be right back.
No, but Chloe, we went to the beach a couple of summers ago, and I noticed something about her. Her friend went with us. Her friend chose to wear the two-piece bathing suit, the bikini, and she wore the one-piece bathing suit. I was like, all right, I'm curious about this, so I got her in the car later, and we're driving. I was like, honey, I noticed that you wore a one-piece, and your friends wore two-piece bathing suits. Why is that? She goes, Dad, she goes, the girls today, where is their modesty? Oh, I had to pull over. Just let the joy wash right over me. Started speaking in tongues right there. Yeah, for a Presbyterian, that's something. I found out 2 weeks later it's because she got her navel pierced without my permission. I wish that was a joke. Where I grew up in West Virginia, a guy came up to me after the show. He didn't think preachers ought to be in comedy clubs. I was at the Huntington Funny Bone, and he goes, gets up in my face. He's like, hey, boy, are you really a preacher? I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, why don't you do something preacher-like then? So, of course, I prayed with him. I baptized him. And I took 10% of everything he owned. My name is Dwight McCormick. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh my
I am
goodness.
hilarious.
Told you guys would like him.
That's awesome. I told you, man, he's funny. You have to go check him out, people. He's really funny. He's got. Tell him about your Facebook and how they can get in
I got
touch
a
with you. And see where
website
you're
that
at.
I think I'm gonna have to change it to dwightmccormickcomedy.com, but currently it's preachercomic.com if they
Okay.
want to go there. There's the full length clip, and there's dates where I come up next and things like that, and,
Okay.
and how to hire me if you have a church show that you want me
Very
to do.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm clean, and I can do about 30 minutes of funny material and about 15 of really bad, mediocre material, and then add some crowd work, so I've got an hour.
You get an hour-long show.
So, no, but I'll, if you go to a church, often they'll have you can do like 30 minutes of comedy and a 15-minute message and then have an invitation. So
Oh,
kinda
okay.
it works out that way.
That would be
wow,
cool.
yeah.
And recently I got back from the Christian Comedy Association down in Nashville, Tennessee. They have an annual conference there, and they have one out in California as well. And I was able to get to hang out with some more Christian comics, and that seems to be more where I'm supposed to go and where I'm supposed to be performing. I think early on I was looking at it like I have to make comedy clubs, I have to make it in the comedy club just to MC, just to be able to, to think, oh, it's a real comic, and you ask
Right.
whoever, and whoever you're going to ask is going to
Yeah.
give a different definition of a real comic.
I don't think there is a real
So,
comic. If you're having fun
right,
and
right.
you're doing what you like,
But-
that's a real comic.
Right, and I think what I've seen is that there's a lot more talent and a lot more creativity than I've ever imagined that I just was able to see more of in the Christian Comedy Association recently. I had a real bad ego, real bad mindset about it early on, a lot of pride that God's kind of been like, yeah, you need to repent from
Yeah,
that, boy.
just
And
slow it down, back it up a little bit.
and go, follow the comics that you know that are really successful in CCA that are able to teach you a lot of things that I definitely don't know.
Right.
Marty Simpson is down in South Carolina, and he's really good, and Sean Reynolds down in Kentucky. John Brannion's over in Ohio. All these guys have been in it a number of years. Johnny Wethington out of Nashville, and got a lot of guys out there on the circuit. Lisa Mills, really hilarious and talented woman from Atlanta, Georgia, and Joy Dodds down in Atlanta. And
So they're traveling all over the place.
they tour. It's
Yeah.
their living,
Right.
and they're pros, and they know a lot that I
So-
don't know.
and
so
you've
I've
been doing it for
learning.
how long?
It's about 12 years.
See, 12 years. Comedy ain't easy, people.
No,
I
it
mean,
isn't,
you get out there and you do the grind.
Right.
But we're going to get up out of here.
All right.
Tell us how they can, if they want to get into your church. And
We're at northminsterspringfield.org, and it's 400 Villa Road, Springfield, Ohio. And church services at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. Everyone is welcome. We hope you come.
everyone is welcome. I am Keith Irvin.
I'm Brock Shank.
And Mr. Dwight McCormick, thank you for letting us into your place.
That's my pleasure.
Had a great
Thanks
time.
for having me.
And we will see you on the next one.
All right.
And we will see you guys on the next one.
Next week.
Take it easy.
Bye.